For those who are old enough, you might remember the good old classic screensaver. In the beginning, we had different type of screensavers like Mystify, Starfield, or Flying Windows. Not only were they indeed acting as their role of screensavers, but they were also a way of personalizing your computer to your fitting. The first screensavers goes back to the 70s and 80s, and their primary function was to, well, save screens. As in, prevent what was referred to as burn-in on your monitor. With old CRT screens, if the monitor was turned on for a longer period of time and projecting the same still image over time, the screen tended to lose their luminance over time, and overuse of certain areas of the screen would eventually cause ghost images to appear. As time went by, screensavers became more than just making sure there was either some object constantly moving on the screen, or that the monitor was turned off after a set amount of time. And who can forget the good old classic Windows 95 maze? This was the first instance where people would sit down and watch a screensaver in action. The concept of this makes absolutely no sense if you think about it, but that's what happened. You wanted to see how the maze turned out, what would happen and where the maze ended. And then there was Johnny Castaway. Johnny Castaway was a screensaver released in 1992 by Sierra Online. Yes, Sierra Online. I'll admit, this was something I first learned while making this video. Johnny Castaway was more than just a screensaver. It was pure entertainment, and we watched this screensaver as we would watch any show on Cartoon Network. Johnny Castaway is a man stranded on a very small island with a single palm tree. On this island, Johnny would do all sorts of activities like fishing, exercising, or reading a book, but there could be all sorts of things happening as well. Every now and then, a scene would play out where Johnny would get visits from pirates, he could be struck by lightning while dancing around, or get his briefs stolen by a seagull. Johnny Castaway, in similarity to Gilligan's Island, would often be so close to getting off the island, but would always find a way to mess it up. And all in all, Johnny probably wasn't the brightest of them all. I do believe there is over 100 different events that could happen at random, which meant that you never knew what was gonna happen, and it would take a long time for you to witness everything. Hence, we watched this screensaver for hours total, and it was so much fun. I realize now in 2023 that I just experienced a small part of what the screensaver had to offer. And it was at this time I learned that Johnny Castaway actually have a story. A love story that unfolds over a time span of 11 days. And now we will experience this beautiful love story together. Enjoy. The story begins with an ordinary man on an ordinary night on an ordinary island. Johnny Castaway is doing his normal daily routine of fishing to get some food to eat for the day. As he stands there waiting to hook a fish, unbeknownst to him, a mermaid has come to observe him. As the mermaid swims away, Johnny noticed a splash and thought it might have been a fish and tries his luck on that part of the island instead. Only to catch a boot, like he often do. Johnny goes on with his day, still thinking he's all alone. Some days passes and Johnny sees a bottle with a note in it. He grabs the bottle and writes an SOS, explaining he is stuck on this island all alone and wishes to be rescued. He throws it back in the ocean and hopes that one day someone will see his message and come for him. Little did Johnny know that his message would in fact be received by someone on the mainland. An unknown woman picks up his message and understands that out there somewhere on a small island, a man is shipwrecked and calls for help. Though the woman might have had some expectations of how this stranger looked like. Back on the island, Johnny is once again visited by the mermaid. And Johnny is immediately struck by this mermaid's beauty. The mermaid offered Johnny a gift, which he happily accepted. Not preparing a gift for the mermaid himself, he gave her a lifeguard ring. But then Johnny got a great idea. He asked the mermaid to have dinner with him, which she accepted. She swims away and Johnny is again alone on the island, but now happy, excited, and eagerly waiting their very first date. The night sky is filled with shining stars, and the moonray kisses the ocean as the sound of the waves makes a soothing, relaxing sound as they hug the sand. The evening is perfect for their very first date, and Johnny greets the mermaid in his most fashionable wear. They have a lovely dinner, and Johnny is mesmerized once again by this mermaid's beauty. They talked all night, and for the first time for as long as Johnny could remember, he no longer felt lonely. The loneliness was exchanged by a different feeling. A warm, tingly sensation filled his body as he got lost in the crystal blue eyes of the mermaid. Butterflies filled his belly, and in that moment, Johnny forgot all about being shipwrecked on an island all alone. Then they danced all night till the mermaid had to go back to the ocean. Johnny waved goodbye as the mermaid swam away, all while Johnny could just not stop smiling. But then, one day, Johnny received a letter from the woman who had found his message. She would wait for him with open arms as soon as Johnny would get to the mainland. As the days passed, Johnny, now filled with motivation, finished the raft. The mermaid came along and asked Johnny what he was doing, whereof he explained he planned to escape the island and venture back to the city. Heartbroken about this news, the mermaid started crying and swam away, leaving Johnny behind, not understanding quite what he did wrong. The day had finally come for Johnny to leave the island behind, and the mermaid together with the shark came to say goodbye. The shark presented himself as the mermaid's partner, and Johnny, now both angered and heartbroken, paddled away and left behind him a small desert island and a mermaid's broken heart. Johnny reached the mainland and was, as promised, greeted by the woman he had communicated with from the island. Excited to finally meet Johnny, the woman gave him a big hug, when, all of a sudden, she discovered a long blonde hair on him, realizing Johnny hadn't been alone on the island after all, and such, their relationship ended before it even began. The life on the mainland wasn't what Johnny once remembered, and as he sat in his office, he started reminiscing about his time on the island and the mermaid that he left behind. Realizing he had to follow his heart, Johnny ventured back to the island and to the woman he realized he loved. Johnny would still be alone on the island, but no longer lonely. As he landed on the island, the story fades away, and we can only hope that Johnny and the mermaid both spend their lives together till their last day.